Hello. Recognize this? Instant active yeast. I understand it's tough to find, so I was really fortunate to get some at the bake shop the other day. But don't worry, I'm sure it's all coming back. So, how's everyone today? I hope I find you well. Today, I have a quote for you, and it's from the mystic Sufi Rumi. You are the universe in ecstatic motion. Isn't that joyous? Basically, I take it to mean that spark of the greatest good, that spark of the divine in you, and anything is possible. And so I'm going to lead up to what we're going to do today, which is the Hokkaido milk bread. Now don't worry, the ingredients are really easy. Technique's a bit more tedious as opposed to difficult. It just takes a little longer, but the best part is many of us still have time. And you can still do a lot of stuff in the time it takes while you wait for the bread to proof and rise. There's a bit of technique involved, but it's not too hard. It's not like making sourdough bread when you have to use the roux method to go and need sticky dough or anything. So this isn't difficult. This isn't molecular gastronomy. Just follow the recipe and you will have every success and pillowy, soft, fluffy Hokkaido milk bread. Perfect for French toast, perfect as an accompaniment, perfect for sandwiches. Let's go and make Hokkaido milk bread and come and find your joy.
As usual, I write up the recipe before I actually execute. I'm actually writing this up for 1 time and 1.5 times. Next, I start with my Tang Zhong. Basically, this is a water roux. It helps with keeping the bread nice and soft and pillowy. And what you want to do is whisk the milk with the flour to make a water roux. Actually, this step in effect prevents the bread from crystallizing and becoming hard overnight. Now, what you want to do is continually whisk over a medium heat until it forms this paste. Allow it to cool till room temperature. Measure out your dry ingredients except for the salt. You can put your milk powder and your yeast in here, but don't add in the salt. You measure out the wet ingredients and break up the eggs using a fork. Don't put in the butter in here at this point. Put the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients after you've made a well and just stir it with a wooden spoon until you get this shaggy mess of dough. At this point, clear off as much as you can from the wooden spoon and work it with your hands, kneading it and gently massaging it until you literally get shaggy but not Scooby. Leave the shaggy dough for 15 minutes. It's basically autolyse when the gluten forms. I've limited my utensils, so if you look on each butter packet, you will see actual measurements which you can use to cut up your butter. After 15 minutes, you will want to add the butter and the salt. That's the texture of the butter. It should be squidgy. Keep on kneading it. It will be squidgy and messy, but you need to keep on doing this until it all comes together. You can do it with a stand mixer as well, but this being the lockdown period, I thought I'd show it to you using the least amount of utensils I could. If you do use a stand mixer, knead by hand for at least 2 minutes after the stand mixer has kneaded for 8. This improves the texture of the dough. If you knead by hand, however, knead for at least 10. Use as little flour as possible and the dough will be tacky but not sticky and you will get a great feel for it. This is also a great workout. At this point, you want to leave the dough for at least an hour and 15 minutes, all the way up to an hour and a half. It's always with great joy that I see the dough rise like this. It looks like this huge pillow that I've just created. Sprinkle as little flour again as possible and tip it out. Oh yes, before you put the dough into the bowl before the proof, make sure you put in a little oil so it comes out easily like this. Now don't forget, the recipe is in the description below. It's in full detail. What you want to do now is just give it a quick punch down of about 8 kneads like this, 8 times. This is just really to redistribute the yeast and to get the air out. After which, I like to fold it into a log like this, where I pinch and crimp so that it really rolls up into this lovely bolster of dough. Here it is in close-up, where I pinch the dough in and roll it at the same time tightly. Once you've rolled it up into this lovely little bolster, you want to portion it out into 6 even pieces of 250 to 300 grams apiece. This allows for optimum rise and optimum texture. Now, I don't have loaf tins, that's the prettiest thing to do, but these pots will do just as well. Remember to grease and flour them, and that on the right is actually my trusty rice cooker pot. So grease and flour them well so they won't stick. Now watch this shaping. Sprinkle as little flour as possible. Get some flour onto your hands so they don't stick. What you want to do is crimp and roll them into a log, then turn it 90 degrees, use both hands, press it out until they're flat, and then crimp and fold again until you get a round loaf. This contributes to that peeling, leaf-like texture when you pull them apart. Here you see me putting them into loaf tins, which I did a couple of weeks ago. Repeat and finish up. If at any one time the middle sort of juts out, you want to sort of like pull them and like fold them underneath like I'm doing here. Let's watch that again close up. So here I am crimping and rolling until it forms a log. Turn it 90 degrees, press with your fingertips until it's flat, again as flat as possible. Then crimp and roll again and fold the ends underneath until you get these lovely bolsters. Cover with a damp cloth and leave it again for anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour and a half. Coat the top with milk or an egg wash just before you're about to bake. Here I'm using my hands because I have no pastry brush. But a couple of weeks ago I did. It's important to bake bread at the right temperature, which is why I've actually set the oven to 200 degrees Celsius so that when I open it, it drops to the 175 that's needed to bake it for half an hour to 35 minutes. And here are the loaves. They speak for themselves. Trust me when I say the smell was glorious. And look at how pillowy these are. And when you pull them apart, how it sort of almost falls into leaves. You can eat this any way you like, but I chose to make a grilled cheese sandwich. That's in another video, so make sure you come back soon. Thank you so much for watching. Please share and subscribe and like this video of Hokkaido milk bread, and I hope you found your joy.